Did you know that every word you speak matters? Are your conversations making a difference? With a passion for words and a heart for conversation, Teresa Velardi is a self-professed word nerd, best-selling author, BizCat 360 columnist, and publisher. Children's books as well as fiction and nonfiction books are welcomed at We Be Books Publishing and Book Endeavors, the imprints of her company, Authentic Endeavors Publishing. Whether written or spoken, Teresa strives to encourage and inspire meaningful conversations that make a difference. Here's the host of Conversations That Make a Difference, Teresa Velardi.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Conversations That Make a Difference. I am Teresa Velardi, and we are so blessed to have Dr. Marcus Wettstein and Dr. Rachel Simpson-Sweet with me today. But first we're going to go through our a little bit of housekeeping here and say that you can listen to Conversations That Make a Difference every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday. And you can meet us on YouTube and put in some questions if you have them. I'm sure there's going to be a tremendous amount of information in this show that you might want to even ask how this information applies to you. So join us on YouTube, and you can listen to Dream Vision 7 live on your mobile car, on your mobile phone, in your car, on YouTube, online, and you can even ask Alexa to play Dream Vision 7 live while you listen.
There you go.
Okay, so cool stuff. Anyway, everybody who knows me knows that I usually start my show with a prayer. So let's do that, and then I'll introduce my guests. God, grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And it is by God's grace that we are fabulous, blessed, and highly favored, living in our greatness, using our gifts and talents, making a difference in the lives of others with passion and purpose. And all of God's great universe is conspiring in our favor. And we gratefully say, amen. So who do we have here today? I already said who. So I'm going to read some bios and make sure you know who these incredible people are. First, we'll start with Dr. Rachel. She's a certified epigenetics, health, and wellness coach with a PhD in neuropsychology. She works with clients to change their lifestyle through biological individuality and understanding genetics. Using genetic blueprints and body biomarkers as the guide, she helps women design a plan to go from being fatigued, stressed, and not sleeping to having more energy and clarity so they can wake up with confidence and rock their day. Through visioning, clients discover new ways to look at challenges and are encouraged to experiment with new techniques to move them closer to becoming their best, the best version of who they are. And so you can learn more about Dr. Sweet at drrachelsweet.com, and we'll give you that again before we close today. Dr. Marcus Wettstein, you have a lot of things in common with Dr. Rachel, and you have practiced endocrinology for nearly 30 years. Dr. Marcus is a diabetes, metabolic, and stress management specialist. He also works in energy medicine as a licensed well practitioner. He assists clients in improving their energy reserve via
photonic imaging.
Photonic, thank you. I know this. I'm a word nerd, remember? He lives in Colorado with his wife, has 3 children, and enjoys skiing and hiking. And you will hear Dr. Wettstein's email address shortly. I'm so grateful to have you guys here. And I'm so grateful that you're welcome. I'm so grateful that the two of you wrote incredible information in the Fourfold Formula for All Things Wellness, the first of a 3-book series. I know that Dr. Rachel is going to write in the second one. And of course you are too, Dr. Marcus. The second one is called Win the Wellness War. WAR stands for We Are Responsible. And that's basically what we're going to talk about today, taking responsibility for your own health by the information that these two practitioners with lots of information can help us to live our best lives. So where do we want to start?
Ladies first.
Okay. All right. So I am going to go to Dr. Rachel. Oh, and by the way, everybody, if you wouldn't mind, Coach Peggy Wilms was supposed to be with us today, but unfortunately she's suffering with some respiratory illness and she doesn't have much of a voice, so you wouldn't hear her. Her presence is always well known, and we love her very much. And Peggy, just get well. We're praying for you to get well quickly. So
Agreed.
Yes, agreed.
Yes, I'm sure she's listening in too. So, Dr. Rachel, you are a neuropsychologist and you have your own story as to why you got involved with epigenetic coaching and how epigenetics can help any of us to live better lives. Can you tell us how that came about for you?
Yeah.
And a little bit about your story?
Yeah. So it's part of the story that I wrote in the first book, actually. It's basically that, my whole life I've struggled with my weight, losing weight, gaining weight, like a lot of ladies have. At one point I was 300 pounds and I just decided to take on at some point, like I'm not going to feed into the diet culture anymore, this mentality of the next diet, what the next thing is, and really kind of had to think about what that means, because I had done so many. If you read the story in the fourfold formula, it's a lot. And I came to realize that I just kept hearing like, well, you just have to, not eat this and exercise. And I'm just like, okay, that's all well and good, but this isn't helpful, and I'm sure other people have heard this. Like I was actually sitting with someone the other day at a conference and they said, it was a longevity conference and they said, well, what's the takeaway here? And I'm like, diet and exercise. And then, it's, oh, so it's that, but at the end of the day, yes, that is true, but it is not helpful. So, and I started to think about why, and part of it is mindset. I had to make a big set shift and say, well, who do I need to become to be what I want, right? So there was that first, and it was kind of, I need to be healthy. That's what I really want. It's not like losing, 100 pounds or whatever. I need to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, so what would a healthy person do? And I kind of went on that search. And found what was right for me. And in that process, I found epigenetics. And I discovered that each of us, has a blueprint, and that's handed down from our ancestors. And a lot of it made so much sense to me once I started looking at my own blueprint and at my family's blueprint and then clients' blueprints, that, people would come to me and they're like on a keto diet and they're like, it's not working. Like I'm, following all of this. And then I look at their genetics and I'm like, yeah, it's not what you're not supposed to be eating a keto diet. It's not like really for your genetics. And so while you might lose some weight on it, but it's not a lifestyle that you can engage in long term that is going to keep you healthy and where you want to be. And so there's, a lot of people say, well, losing weight is not the hard part. It's keeping the weight off that's the hard part. And so the epigenetics for me was really being able to give people a blueprint to say, well, this is what your body says you should eat like, and then you can mold that based on, what you like to eat, how that would fit in with what your genetics say. And a lot of my clients go, wow, I have a plan now. And it's based on me, not anybody else, and not some tribe that says, eat this, don't eat that. It's, so, I mean, that's what it was for me. I mean, like I'd met with lots of personal trainers, doctors, over the years and heard the same thing over and over again. And I thought, there has to be something different. There really has to be something different.
Well, I can relate to your story, and I've had my epigenetics done. And what I heard, some of the things that I've heard from you are like, what? Like, are you serious? And it's so contrary to what I would think
Right.
Was, and I've been the one, I've gone the gamut of trying every diet out there, every program. And I've been everywhere from 110 pounds up to, I'm not even want to say how high. But the bottom line is that what you're able to do, and I'm going to go to Dr. Marcus with this as well, because you are, between the two of you, what you are able to do is pinpoint specifics for each person's body so that they can live a healthy life, excuse me, according to their own physical makeup, and yes, there is an element of brain and how you want to show up in the world,
Mhm.
and mindset shifts and whatnot that have to take place. But Dr. Marcus, what's been your experience with your patients between the endocrinology and your knowledge of epigenetics? You've got a fireball of help for people there.
Well, yes, it's always in the receiver, though. You can basically preach until the end of time, and if there's no reception, then that's not going to result in the outcome that everybody desires, even the patient. You have to find out where the resistance is, where the problem really lies, and very frequently it is necessary to do a comprehensive, holistic type of assessment to sort that out. And in our book, The Fourfold Formula, the wellness wheel is basically an attempt to give people a tool to do this assessment at their own home. There is obviously, misconceptions. This is not a recipe or anything like that. And you have to assess yourself in earnest. And that's difficult first step anyways. But you can basically home in, is it the mind? Is it the body truly? There are people out there that have diseases that make them obese, and it's horribly difficult to treat. And so there are people in real trouble, and they need medications to help them, basically. It always seems to me like there is a rift between the holistic or the traditional medicine, and I don't think, from my perspective, I have that as a knowledge base, and I carry that along for as long as I will be around. And I try and intermingle these things. And I do understand that there is a lot of places where you have to stop and say, I need help. Other people can help me with this. And it really depends on where the problem lies in the first place.
And then once you find out the information that the patient or someone, whoever is coming to you for help, your coaching clients, Dr. Rachel, and your patients, Dr. Marcus, they have to be willing to make the changes that are necessary in order to be able to achieve the results. And I got to tell you something. I'm going to admit this on the show. I am a rebel. I'm a rebel. What do you mean I can't have this? I can't have this, but I can't have this every day, from morning to evening. I mean, there's boundaries, and a lot of people have issues with boundaries these days, especially when we're in such a crazy time and whatnot. It does a lot to our psyche, and then we take out. I don't know about you, but for me, I'm sure, Rachel, you can relate to this. There's a lot of things like I have been known to be someone who runs to food when I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Sure.
And that's, but it's been my upbringing, my grandmother, my aunt, Italian women, my great grandmother, right off the boat from Italy. Here, eat this, Teresa, you'll feel better. Well, that stuck with me for the longest time. So let me ask the two of you, what do you do when somebody is in a situation like this? And now Rachel tells me, Dr. Rachel tells me that in my genetics, I have athletic genes. I have athletic genes, and I'm having trouble getting out of the house to go for a walk. Come on, so how do we incorporate all of this?
Yeah. Well, obviously your genes are your potential, right? And
Mhm.
as Marcus said, like you've got to have the mindset to follow it. And it isn't easy. I mean, otherwise, everybody would be losing weight and staying healthy, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But I think that, you know, unfortunately with kind of how things are at the moment, there is a lot of this, don't eat that. And that's not really where I come from. I come from a place of like, well, can you have some of that now and again? Sure. But this is kind of what your body's saying is best for you.
Mhm.
And that way there isn't that kind of like crisis of, oh, I'm not able to eat this, and then it's building up and it's building up, and then eat the whole pack of cookies, right? there's
Yeah.
there's ways to get around that, but you can make it harder for yourself. So for me, one step that I do is I just don't buy things that are like things I want to go to, like when I get upset, right? If I'm having a bad day, if there's a pack of cookies or some ice cream or something, if it's not in the house, I can't go attack it and take my emotions out on it, right? So that's one
Exactly.
thing, is make it harder for those foods to be accessible. And then if you do have those foods, maybe buy it in a different quantity. So I heard something on a podcast the other day that I thought was great. They get the frozen cookies and they just cut off two and they bake two. So they're nice and warm at that time and they eat them, but they can't eat anymore because the rest are frozen. So that's another way of still having, your cookie, counting it in your calories for the day, and, feel good about it.
Mhm.
And not like punish yourself. I think that's one of the things that I find most people, they punish themselves for if they digress from their
Yeah.
diet. And I just feel like that is the worst thing, because I spent many years doing that, and that is not helpful at all to your
No.
psyche at
Hmm.
all, you
Mm-mm.
know.
Mm-mm. So, Dr. Marcus, now one
Yeah,
other thing I want to add in this, now to somebody like me who not only has this addictive personality, this eat this you'll feel better mindset, and I also have issues with my thyroid. So let's take what Dr. Rachel said, your knowledge of endocrinology, and maybe there's something you can recommend for people who maybe in similar situations to me. I have to tell you, I'm not someone who really likes to take medication. Yes, I'll take supplements, but I don't really like to take medication. But I have discovered, as you said a little bit earlier, your training in medicine. Sometimes we have to take medications. So what can you bring to the table here for people like me who are trying to figure out their thyroid numbers and balance all of these balls that we're juggling in the air?
right. Well, throwing the thyroid in there is obviously very important because if the thyroid is not adjusted properly, it takes, it directs the energy expenditure of your basal metabolism, which basically is about, 60 to 80% of the calories that you put in a day.
Mhm.
So your metabolism has to be established properly. And a lot of my patients try and go hyperthyroid because it burns extra calories without having to move a muscle. The problem is the extra burning requires extra energy, and there is a net loss in muscle balance over time. And
Right.
so you don't do that. Don't go hyperthyroid. But the point here is the metabolism has to be in a proper place, and you are the one who has to decide where that is.
Mhm.
So understanding the thyroid, if you would come to me, I would trial to put you in different ranges of the normal reference range of thyroid hormone
Mhm.
and or the TSH, and basically get you to feel if that makes a difference to you.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's step number one. Okay,
Yeah.
and then I dial it into where you are, and then your metabolism, which is the major beast here, is taken care of. And then you can start talking to yourself about programs like I did in in my little
Yes.
rendition here. Your upbringing, and you go and have food for that's a very deep-seated, very entrenched program, and to be able to break that, and I outlined when you start noticing it, oh, it's starting back up, I'm headed in that direction. You have to try and find yourself areas where you can veer off. And then where you do that, the further you go to the beginning of it all. And if you can stop only that, you still probably have problems in other sectors that make you want to eat. But that would be one thing that you can try and work on to at least dampen that trigger.
Right. Exactly.
And then you're already ahead of the game, and you actually cut out some calories, and there's probably going to be a result of that. But the point here is that the calories and the weight loss is secondary. You're working on something completely different, and you're trying to get to stop a program that is not serving you well anymore, but you carried your whole life because it was just beaten into you from the beginning, when you didn't even know how to defend yourself against that kind of bullshit. Honestly,
And then
we all go through that.
Oh yeah, we all have them. I have them too.
Yeah.
And I think, what Marcus is saying is very true. These are very deep-seated. You'll probably find that once you get round your family, they get triggered even more, like because of that family system is now cueing that for you.
Oh, you don't like my cookies?
Yeah, because then they feel offended if you're not eating the food, and so it's there's a whole lot that goes into that. But if you're in your own house, obviously, I mean, if you're aware of it, and if you can recognize it when it's happening. I know that was the place that I got to. For me, it was like, oh, why is this happening right now? What's going on? If I could try and do that step back, it takes a while to do that. But once you know in yourself, like, this is something that triggers me, you can try in that, when you get that anger welling up, or the need to eat, or the anxiety, or whatever it is that's coming up, and you can say, okay, what is going on? Why do I want to eat? Am I hungry, or is this anger? What happened to me just now? I know I've been able to assess those feelings for myself, and then say, all right, can I go for a walk right now and interrupt this pattern? Can I, engage in something else, maybe like put on a song and dance or something to get like that excess energy out, just to break that programming at that moment and recognize it for what it is. But then also, if I end up eating whatever food it is, again, not punishing myself for that, just always being aware.
That does even more damage to us than
absolutely.
than actually taking the action of eating something that might not have been a good choice. And I want you to hold on to that thought for a minute, because we have to go to a break, and we're going to come back and continue this conversation. And one thing that I would like to find out from either of the two of you is, so for me, some of the symptoms that I had in my body telling me that there was an issue with my thyroid have become very apparent. So maybe we can give our audience some things to look for in case they might need to see an endocrinologist, or and Dr. Rachel, I know you find out stuff about the hormones in the epigenetics panels too. So and the blueprint helps with that. So we have to go to break, and we'll be right back with Dr. Marcus Wettstein and Dr. Rachel Sweet.
What if dreams can diagnose your life? What if we can meet the love of our life in dreams? Join host Kat O'Keefe Canavas, the #1 internationally best-selling author of Dreams That Can Save Your Life, written with Duke University medical doctor Larry Burke. Dreaming Healing is where we'll explore dreams, research, and interpret dreams from you, the caller. Dreaming Healing shows can be heard every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern, with live shows on the first and third evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Come live your dreams out loud with Kat.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times bestselling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love crying and laughing through mayhem to miracles. Sacred stories of transformational hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velardi's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Omega Institute, offering workshops, retreats, and online learning dedicated to awakening the best in the human spirit. For over 40 years, Omega has seen more than 1 million people come through its doors to grow, learn, and find a greater sense of purpose. With over 350 workshops to choose from, Omega offers something for everyone. Located in Rhinebeck, New York, just 90 miles north of New York City, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org or call 877-944-2002. Again, 877-944-2002.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we're back. I wanted to mention a couple of different things before we continue our conversation. Gratitude is indeed my heart, and we have put out a daily gift of gratitude, and both Dr. Rachel and Dr. Marcus have pages in this book. It's just a page a day to read a little story, to shift your attitude from maybe anxiety and whatnot. This is something I can do in order to be able to avoid the food as well, too. Pick up something and read it, you know.
There you go.
Gratitude and make it gratitude. There you go. So, and I'm going to be on Kat Cannabis's show later today at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to be talking about a daily gift of gratitude. And thank you both for your contribution to.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I had a great time doing that. And there's more coming. Actually, the next two, just so people know, we're changing the page on dailygiftbookseries.com is where you can go to find out what's happening next. The next book is going to be a daily gift of kindness, and we're also going to have a daily gift of hope. So we're going to populate two books with lots of stories, put some positive stuff out into this world that, you know, everybody can have a smile on their face after they read one of the stories. So back to the thyroid.
Okay.
One of the things that I noticed most is thinning hair, my hair falling out. And sometimes I'll get a handful of hair after washing it in the shower. I'll brush my hair and find a lot of it in the sink. And I know that loss of hair, low energy. What are some other symptoms, people, between the two of you? What other symptoms can people look for to as an awareness to get their thyroid checked?
Well, I always separate it into, I try and explain the metabolism first, okay? What is that? And then trying to explain to the patient that if you crank up the metabolism, you're going to get a whole lot of symptoms that are indicating hyperness. You get shakes, you get sweats, you get palpitations, and all this happens on a sort of a sliding scale. There's obviously a gray zone. Some people get palpitations first, and some people, can't sleep at night. So there are different in that department. And then the hypothyroidism, everything slows down. Cold, constipation, fatigue, weight gain, increased sleep requirement. You can tell there's a lot of people that would like probably to be checked for their thyroid. And I don't think it's a bad idea, to be honest with you. Hypothyroidism is quite undetected out there.
And Dr. Rachel, one of the reasons why I think this conversation is so timely is not only because as a society, we need this information, number one, and number two, I think that, it's the beginning of the new year and every single diet program you can name is on television. Every single one of them on television, on the radio, on whatever else. And people are being sucked in to try the next thing that they think is going to help them. So given the fact that we have some of this information that could help send them in a different direction, what would you recommend, Dr. Rachel? And how does the information that Dr. Marcus just gave us play into what you find in the epigenetics panel?
Yeah, so obviously when I look at the epigenetics, it can give an indication of what genes might not be performing the way that you would want them to be performing, that would lead to problems with the thyroid, and so we obviously would look at that and then check with blood work to make sure that that is the case, if the genes are expressing in that way. And as Marcus said, the first line of defense obviously is to speak with the doctor, make sure the medication and the thyroid medication is adequate. I know, like, you had a terrible experience with some of your medications, so it's really important that they talk to their doctor about how they're supposed to take it, when they're supposed to take it, how it's supposed to make them feel, so that they can work with their doctor and make sure that that's adjusted, so that it is getting their metabolism functioning properly.
Right.
And then obviously, as far as a diet plan or eating plan, I don't like to call them diets.
I don't like the word diet. DIE are the first three letters. I would say as far away from that as I can.
Eating plan, obviously we want to incorporate a lot of fresh fruits, vegetables, fiber is important. Eating from all of the macros, protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Yes, they are all important. And when I say carbohydrates, I mean things like vegetables, potatoes, those kind of things, not cakes and pastries.
So cruel, so cruel.
But like I said, I don't like to, limit them. So if you want to have something now and again, okay. But obviously.
My patients, I'm sorry to interrupt, but my patients a lot of them are diabetics.
Yeah.
And I basically tell them, if it tastes good, it's no good for
Not
you.
good. Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously diabetes is a whole nother issue, right? So you've got to really stay off the sugar. But, I'm not going to like I said, look, I understand. I'm not going to berate anybody if they indulge in something, but obviously they know their body best. And I just know that it functions better when we're eating whole foods, minimally processed foods. I mean, all foods are processed in some way, right? They're all coming from in the grocery store. They're all processed in some way. But, if it's going to come out of a package and it's got multiple ingredients, I mean, sometimes you pick up a package and you look at the ingredients and it's like a book and you're like, okay,
it's a billboard.
This is not food. Okay. Exactly. That's not food. If you pick up a package, it's got a couple of ingredients in it. That's more probably, minimally processed. And then I would just encourage people to, you can do things like all kinds of things, even without having to do your genetics if you don't want to, but you can do elimination diets as well, where if you feel like something is causing you an issue, you can eliminate that for a while and see how your body feels. I know that's been the case with clients that I've had, like they'll eliminate things and add things back in, especially ones that have some sensitive stomachs, and they have to do kind of like maybe a FODMAP or something like that, where they have to eliminate a lot of foods in the beginning and get things under control with the microbiome and then add things back. But it is important to eat from all of the the areas: protein, carbohydrates, and fats. They
Yeah.
all serve a function in our body. We
Yeah.
shouldn't eliminate one over the other. Let me.
Right.
Yeah. So I
And
have a
let me
question.
just, I'm sorry, Teresa, but just one little thing. I do promote with my diabetics a cheat meal. And that's basically, if you get a trigger for a craving, you can quench that by saying, no, my cheat meal was assigned on Wednesday for dinner, and that's it. Now you can start with 3 a week, 1 breakfast, 1 lunch, 1 dinner, you know, to try and get into that habit and see if it works for you, and then get tighter and tighter as you go along. So those are little things to branch away. When you start noticing the trigger, just get your thinking process. No, it's got to be Wednesday, you know, that
Yeah.
type of stuff.
Yeah,
So
and I
this is-
think that's it. It's mindfulness, it's awareness of a lot of us are rushing around, and we sometimes don't even notice that we're eating things. Like you know, like especially I've heard gals who are in the office and they've got like a bowl of sweets or donuts or in the, you know, the break room, and they're just like on the phone and they're just walking and they'll just pick something up and start eating it, and then they'll be, I didn't even realize I was doing it.
It's unconscious. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just
Right.
not engaging in it. And I think that's a thing. Like you need to really be conscious of when you're eating your meals. You eat your meals, you know, try to be present for that moment. It usually only takes like 5-10 minutes to eat a meal. All right.
Yeah.
So just for that 10 minutes, be present and eat that meal. Don't be on the phone. Don't try not to be rushing around doing something else, eating in your car, or, you know,
Yeah.
whatever, because that's when you're not listening to the body, its cues. You're not aware of how much you're eating. You can overeat, you know, so it's all of those things as well.
Yeah, and an extreme example of that is we have, through visualization of our food, already an insulin priming mechanism going on, so that when the food hits and gets absorbed, the blood sugar doesn't go up. That's a normal mechanism. And so, you know, that I'm sure if you notice the flavor, you prep your body for this coming on and this being absorbed better than if you're cramming it down while you're driving or something like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have 2 questions relative to exactly what we're talking about here, and going into the diabetic portion here. First question is, there's promotion of diabetic medication for weight loss. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I have a friend who went to a doctor who actually gave her, I don't remember the name of the drug, but it was a shot once a week that she gave herself in her stomach, and it made her really sick. But the doctor said that it was going to help her to lose
You're
weight.
talking about semaglutide or
Yeah, those are all the once weekly injectable medications that are out there. They help diabetics tremendously. They notice that there is one effect of this drug is actually going into the brain and slowing down the hunger center. So in other words, for the people that are leptin resistant, geez, okay, let me not get into this too far. The point is, the point is that if you have the hunger center calmed down, anybody will not consume as many calories a day and therefore lose weight. And that is why it's now a fad diet in Hollywood. Okay. Basically is being utilized for these people to lose weight, just to look better, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
Silly.
actually
But that's only one effect.
Yeah.
The medication has a bunch of effects.
Right.
Really good.
Yeah, so a lot of people have been promoting these drugs. So there's a bunch of different names, but it's basically a GLP-1 agonist, basically.
Right.
And yeah, so a lot of people have been having significant weight loss with it. There's a dual agonist that just came out as well that apparently is even better than semaglutide. But I just saw a research study that says that most of the people who lose the weight loss lose weight with those have to stay on the drug, because just like everything else, it comes back afterwards.
Yeah.
And really, why? Because they haven't changed their mindset. So yes, the chemical is, you know, is affecting the hormone signals in the brain. And so yes, while on the drug, like you're not as hungry, you don't engage, but they're not really learning, like what we were talking about, the triggers. Why do we get triggered to eat? Or they're not paying attention to the food that they're eating, because once you take off the drug, the hormones come back in. It's the same
Right.
story. And that's just
Right.
weight loss in general, right? Like anytime you take anything that's going to be a fad like that, a pill or an injection or anything, you've also got to change the mindset. Otherwise,
Right.
it's not.
And that's one of the big things that the fourfold formula and the wellness wheel helps people to understand. It's not just about going to the gym. It's not just about what you put in your mouth. It's about the mindset and all of the other factors that make up how we operate in general, how we operate. And, I mentioned the thyroid because the thyroid seems to be my big thing right now that I have to get cleared up, as well as the other things that I need to implement from my epigenetics that I study that I had done. But at the same time, your hormonal system can either help you keep you running like a clock, or it could keep you chasing your tail to find out what's going on. So and it's not just the thyroid, it's a lot of different hormones, but
it's so complex, right? I mean, Marcus will tell you, we're so complex, and one system feeds into the other, and one can be affected upstream, and downstream it will be doing something different, and it affects us differently.
And we got to remember here that we are learning about all these things. 90% of what's out here right now was not in existence when I started practicing.
Yeah.
These were invented drugs, okay? So don't take a drug if you don't know what it's all about, or it's prescribed by somebody who knows and monitors, because all drugs have side effects, period, okay? There is none without, okay? It's just the way it is. Absolutely. And so the point is, don't do this stuff as a fad, okay? Don't get your hands on phentermine or something like that out there to lose the 20 pounds for your wedding or some. These drugs, they're drugs, okay? You can't play with that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Hold that thought. We're coming back to that. We have to go into our second break. This hour is flying by, and we're talking with Dr. Marcus Wettstein and Dr. Rachel Sweet, and we're basically having a conversation about wellness and health, and how you can start your year off right with some of the information that they're bringing forth. Come on back. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
When you think about being healthy and happy, do you consider the 24 areas of your life? Probably not. With the All Things Wellness Wheel, you become self-empowered, allowing you to make healthier decisions about relationships, nutrition, sleep, exercise, stress, and even your value system. The All Things Wellness book series, written by Peggy Wilms and Dr. Marcus Wettstein, teaches about the ATW wheel and brings dozens of true and personal stories from real people. The first of these multi-author books, The Fourfold Formula, features the foreword written by the Celestine Prophecy author, James Redfield, and is now available on Amazon. Reserve your spot now to become a published author in Book 2, Win the Wellness War, We Are Responsible. Visit allthingswellness.com/author for more information.
In a world facing annihilation, a miraculous African nun rises to become the first female pope through a web of war, murder, and betrayal. Loved by some, hated by many, she becomes the deadly target of Islamic terrorists and her own cardinals as she introduces a new vision that will either save humanity or accelerate its destruction. 4 people must race against a nuclear holocaust to learn her astonishing secret. Pope Annalisa is available at petercanova.com, Amazon, and other online booksellers and bookstores worldwide.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velardi's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Why are we here? How can we be happy? Questions asked from millennials to boomers. Crappy to Happy, Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy answers them using true stories of grit, grace, and love. James Redfield, author of The Celestine Prophecy, wrote in the foreword, "This book is a seminar about emerging truths and offers grounded solutions through the art of the comeback." Dr. Bernie Siegel, a contributing author, wrote, "Bodies die, but spirits and consciousness survive and recycle." So, grab some tissues, open your book, and prepare to cry and laugh till it heals. Crappy to Happy by Reverend Ariel Patricia and Kathleen O'Keefe Cannabis. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and booksellers worldwide.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we're back. I am just in awe of how fast this time is going, but I want to say that from the Fourfold Formula, which, by the way, my publishing company, Authentic Endeavors Publishing, under the imprint of Wellness Endeavors, is responsible for putting this out there. So, and so the other two books that are coming behind this, the first one, Win the Wellness War, WAR, We Are Responsible. If you would like to know more about how you can be part of one of these multi-author books, you can go to allthingswellness.com/author, and the information is there. And yes, you did hear the commercial for this book as we came out of that last break. So it's the 24 spokes of the wellness wheel are so relevant to what we're talking about. That's why I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity. Just go to Amazon and buy your copy. It's a lot of information. And Dr. Rachel, you got inspired by being part of that, so that you are now putting out your own book with several authors. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. So I actually got the mock-up cover here. I don't know if you can see it like with my screen on.
There we go. Step right.
Almost.
Here.
There it is, right there. Yeah.
In front of my face.
Expressive origins.
Expressive origins. Yeah. Basically, it's kind of I've taken the same kind of theme as the Fourfold Formula and the idea of a story, because stories are just so powerful at getting across an idea. And so it kind of, the book morphed over time and became a little bit more of my story and kind of what I've learned along the way. But I do have other authors in there, as you said, and they tell their story about why they came to epigenetics, also how that's affected them and their clients, or kind of their philosophy on epigenetics and what they specifically look at. So each of them are different practitioners, nutritionalists, nurses, dietitians that have that. They look at epigenetics within their practice.
Right. Awesome. Awesome. And that book is coming out. Hopefully we're going to get that out in early February. So we're looking forward to that happening. So I have another question relative to insulin. There's a lot of conversation about insulin resistance and so forth. And is it possible, this is the question, to get off insulin? And is it true that insulin injections cause weight gain? And then the big question, how do you get out of that cycle? How do you fight that cycle of ups and downs of the hormone?
Yeah, so the weight gain with insulin initiation is frequently multifactorial for sure, but if you had poor blood sugar control, one of our safety valves is the kidney. Put it bluntly, you pee out sugar. If you hold that in because now you're losing insulin, you're holding in calories, and they go somewhere, and we're good at stashing them. So that's how the weight gain happens for a lot of people. There are multiple other factors too, but that's I think the most reasonable explanation for most patients. The insulin resistance situation and the fact that you have to use the insulin to get the blood sugar under control is so important. Even with some weight gain, you can address that later. The blood sugar, the sugar inside the bloodstream, does all the damage everywhere, in the eyes, the heart, the kidney, the feet. It's all about the blood vessels and the damage in there that causes the end resulting, problems that diabetics have to suffer with for the rest of their lives. So first order of business, get the thing that can get you into serious trouble very quickly under control, then deal with the rest. There are these weight loss drugs that we've been discussing, the once weekly shots, the GLP-1 agonists. There's quite a variety out there that help your insulin, or the insulin that you're injecting, working better. They help you lose weight. With the weight loss comes less insulin resistance, so people can come off insulin. Absolutely, I do that a lot, because that would mean that you become more and more independent of the crutches that you're using to justify your persistent lifestyle that's not working because it ruined your body, or it's in the process of doing that. So, it's sometimes you have to have a heart-to-heart with people to make them understand those type of things. But the weight gain with insulin initiation, yes, can be, we'll take care of that. That's what we're here for. That's what I do. Yeah.
Absolutely. So. And I think the biggest thing that people need to know is, all these sugars and the carbs, they all look really good, but they wreak havoc on your body. And, I have someone very close to me who just found out that a relative is now in hospice because her body has just like given out, and she's gotten cancer. First of all, would you tell everybody what feeds cancer? Sugar feeds cancer, right? So, sure. I mean, that's the thing. So in order to be able to have anything work for you, and if we're talking about something as detrimental to your body as cancer, I mean, that would be enough for anyone of a sound mind to say, that's it, I'm putting down the Oreos or whatever, So, but some people just don't get it until they're no longer here, and they have to look at it in whatever comes after this, in the afterlife.
Yeah. Well, maybe they get a second run,
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, it is unfortunate, but I mean, having looked at the genetics, I mean, there is a component to sugar addiction. There are genes that once the sugar goes onto the mouth and into the tongue, it's like, it starts to inhibit our hunger signals, and it's kind of all goes out the window. And so that is very difficult. And then we've got a marketing and manufacturing beast that is in the food industry that just package it so it's just looks pretty, and it tastes great, and it's got multiple things that will hit our tongue to
and you can't eat only one, right?
No, right.
You can't eat only one.
That's one for
they know how to do that.
Once it pops, once you pop, you can't stop, right? That was the tagline.
That's
or something.
Exactly right.
And even things like potato chips, which is that tagline, have sugars in them that don't taste like sugars on your tongue, but you have receptors in your stomach that like know that that's sugar, and then tell you, we want more of that, because your body is programmed to want the best high calorie density food, because it doesn't want to starve, right? That it wants to preserve its life. It's a very ironic thing. Yeah. And so even though we might have a lot of excess energy that we're carrying around with us that the body could use, it's still kind of holding on to that programming that I need the highest calorie density food that I can get hold of. So it's just like this perfect storm. And the minute you walk into the grocery store, they've got the racks and right there in front of you, it's all displayed, and it
It's all
is
displayed.
difficult. And I've had clients say to me like, well, like I'm in my 60s or whatever, and I want to live my life, and then a year later they're knocking on Marcus's door like, hey, my blood markers, my H1C, it's like out of control. What do I do? And there's this real dichotomy between, hey, I want to live my life the way I want to live it and eat what I want, but then the body says, no, that you can't do that here. And it starts rebelling. And at some point you have to make that choice. So I used to work in a nursing home. I've seen the toll that cancer and diabetes, people who've had amputations, blindness from just letting that get out of control.
Yeah.
And
so
but
there's
it's not
another,
good, people.
no, it's not
definitely
good.
not
And,
good.
although we're talking about obesity and we're talking about, trying to lose weight and whatnot, a lot of this stuff is true across the board. I mean, I know people who can have a metabolism that's so fast that they can eat half a grocery store, and they walk around and they get on the scale and they're 100 pounds, and like, really? Like, come on. So, but they're in their own, that's their own, this is my hell, that's theirs, because it's either side of it is extreme.
Yeah.
And it's finding the balance in the middle, I think, where giving the body what it needs, and then being able to, still have a good life, because life is not always about food. I mean, food becomes part of an experience, it's just, we gather around the table, we have good conversation and whatnot, but you know what? You don't have to have all the cookies and cakes and desserts and whatever you like on the table in order to be able to have a good conversation. I mean, just look at this.
Yeah.
And
I think what you've said is there's a couple of things there. Yes, people are genetically different, and I've looked at genetics of myself, you, and other people who struggle with their weight, and then people who don't struggle with weight. And there are definitely differences in the genetics and the makeup. But there's also differences in some of the mindset as well. And one of the things that I realized is I planned a lot of activities in the past around food. Like, I'll meet you at a restaurant. I'll meet you here. We're going to go take a drive and we'll end up at this restaurant. And I noticed that also in other people, that like a lot of their activities were based on food. So now I look for activities where I can go somewhere and take a hike, or I can go somewhere and kayak.
Right.
And it's not about food. It's about an activity that I enjoy, see a serene, a lovely, serene place, a surrounding that's beautiful and isn't food focused. And so I would encourage people to look at their activities and what they're doing. And then perhaps maybe there has to be a tweak there too, because I tell you, it is a lot of it comes down to what our environment and where we're putting ourselves, as much as it is genetically related and environment, our what we were given with our family as well. But it's also what we choose to do.
I have one more question, and we have 3 minutes left. So this question is about reading articles that blame American obesity pandemic from corn syrup and processed foods. What do you say, Dr. Marcus, on that?
They play a big role. There is no doubt about it.
They do.
But it's not you can't just point to one or two items and say this is all responsible for it. Humans are way too variable for that, So yes, there is, and the point there, I think, is to point out that they're predatorial. They make you obese. They don't care about your health. They want you to eat their product.
Exactly.
And they design it that way, and they make sure that you are coming back for more. It's predatory, and that's what the bad part is.
Yeah, it's designed to be highly palatable and very, with a high desire for us to eat it. And it's all marketed and made that way for us.
And how much science goes into the product in the
a
first place.
lot of R&D. A lot of R&D.
Man.
Unbelievable. We could go on forever. We could go on this topic forever.
I was going to say the next book, right? We are responsible.
We are responsible.
That's the thing. We are responsible. We have control what we put into our mouths. We can vote with our dollars what we're going to buy. And that's
Yeah.
that's the thing. We are responsible.
Dr. Marcus, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do that? Give us some way people can reach out to you if they have questions.
Well, with regards to all of this endeavor, it's between Peggy and myself. Sorry, the full formula. We do this through allthingswellness.com. That would be one way. So everything that has to do with the book. My personal email is my truncated first and last name. So it's mwetttst@gmail.com.
Okay, great.
So that would be my private email.
Okay. And Dr. Rachel, how do people get in touch with you? And
Yeah, they can reach
email,
out through
website?
website, drrachelsweet.com. I'm on Facebook and Instagram also. Or they can email me at coach@drrachelsweet.com. I'm happy to answer any questions or anything anybody has to ask. I'll see what I can do.
Right, exactly. We see what we can do.
That's what we can do. There you go. The wellness wheel, the epigenetics, the we are responsible coming out. If you have a story to tell, be sure to go there. Watch for Rachel's book to come out, and we are responsible.
There it is.
Expressive Origins. And remember to get your copy of
The Daily Gift of Gratitude.
There you go.
That's it, exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again next time. Great show,
Thank you,
guys. I love
Teresa.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tune in next time for Conversations That Make a Difference with host Teresa Velardi every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Thank you for listening. And thank you to our producer, Rachel, and to our station owner, Deborah Beauvais, working behind the scenes. Be sure to go to conversationsthatmakeadifference.com for your free gift. Make sure your conversations make a difference.